This recording is from a recent event hosted by the Interpreter and Translator Peer Support Group. I founded the Interpreter and Translator Peer Support Group in 2020. We host live support group meetings, and we have a Facebook group where you can post privately, Facebook chats. We also have a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page, so check out the description if you'd like to follow us or learn more. One last thing, we're an entirely volunteer-run initiative. We don't make any money, we're not an official organization. However, you can contribute monetarily to the Interpreter and Translator Peer Support Group. All funds are used to basically pay for all of the subscriptions that we have, web hosting, our newsletter service, you name it. I pay for a lot of things to keep this group running. So I would also like to start applying for CEUs, and I would also eventually like to pay our presenters. This is a special event that we hosted called Emotional First Aid for Interpreters and Translators, and our host is Flor Montero, who is a conference interpreter and psychotherapist. Like me, Flor has a YouTube channel that you should check out. It's called Psicoterapia Mindful. She has meditation videos and mindfulness videos in English and in Spanish, so check it out. Before we get to the recording, let's give you a brief kind of description of what you're about to watch. So this is the official description. In the midst of the rising global crisis of fascism and political polarization, interpreters and translators often find themselves at the front lines of tense, emotionally charged situations. As language professionals, we're not only tasked with conveying words, but also emotions, nuances, and the weight of history. To navigate this complex and challenging landscape, it's essential to prioritize our own emotional well-being. Join us for the Emotional First Aid Masterclass, specifically designed for interpreters and translators. This session will equip you with practical tools to manage the emotional toll of your work, build resilience, and protect your mental health in the face of crisis and conflict. Together, we'll explore strategies to cope with stress, combat burnout, and empower ourselves to continue supporting others without sacrificing our own well-being. Don't miss this opportunity to learn, heal, and stand strong as we confront these unprecedented times.
First of all, thank you very much for the invite. It's my pleasure to be here and to speak about mental health. Just a little bit about me so that you know why I was invited. I am a conference interpreter. I have been interpreting for 29 years in Mexico and in other countries, but I'm also a psychotherapist. I specialize in body psychotherapy and Ericksonian hypnotherapy. I'm a hypnologist. So that's why I love body work and meditation. And I find they're incredibly useful in my private practice. And those are the resources we will be speaking about today. Some examples of things we can do, considering the challenging times we're going through, because even though I gather the situation is more difficult in the States than in other places, we're all being affected by what's happening since January, since Trump took office. For instance, in my little corner of the world, events are being canceled because I used to interpret for USA in different projects, not anymore. Things are getting more expensive and people feel a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty, and it's challenging. It's challenging for mental health. But I understand that the challenges are not equal for everyone because we all have different life experiences and life cycles that we're going through. Some people are beginning their path as interpreters and translators, and the challenges they face have nothing to do with the challenges I faced when I was beginning in this profession, because there was no AI. Google Translate was horrible, so it was very easy for me to prove to customers that it was junk. Not anymore. They have gotten really good at it. So life experiences are always unique. Nothing can be prescribed as a cookie cutter recipe, because life is not like that. So you take what works for you, what resonates with you, and if something doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to follow that particular strategy. And I want to present different strategies, considering that in our uniqueness, some things might work better than others. And so that's kind of the idea of why we decided to present this class. I was asked to give it first I work for a group that's called Asylum Access. I am a volunteer there. I give psychotherapy to migrants. And so this is the class I presented to them and to the people in Asylum Access when, well, after Trump, once again, many people, half of the staff was fired in Mexico. So as part of the offboarding process, we also gave them these tools so as to be able to try and cope and make sense of what's going on in this world of ours. So it's not that I am against Trump or Republicans or anything like that. I'm very respectful of everyone's beliefs, but I do have to talk about this because it's had an effect, right? And so we all want to be well. There are two things that all human beings share equally: the desire to be loved and the desire to be safe. And those are the greatest challenges that we have in human health. All of the rest of the things that we experience are somewhat connected to one of those two needs that are very human. So let's start with a little exercise just that we can fully come in. I understand that it's Friday night for the people on this side of the world, because in Egypt and other places it might be very different. But on this side of the world, it's Friday night, and I cannot believe that we have so many attendees coming to a mental health workshop that speaks wonders of the ability Kelly has to call upon people, to mobilize coordination. She's just great. She's wonderful. I'm a big fan of hers. So in order for us to fully be here at this moment, we're going to do something that's called the Hourglass meditation. So it's only 3 minutes long. I don't want to see eyes rolling. Oh no, she's going to start with the meditation, so I'm going to fall asleep. It's only 3 minutes, I promise. It won't be that hard or painful. So during the first minute, I'm going to invite you, and I'm using a timer here, to, with your eyes closed or with your eyes open, whatever works best for you, just become mindful of your body state right now. And notice what's going on, how your head feels, your neck, your upper shoulders, your spine. Notice what's going on at the level of your chest. If there are emotions, if there are bodily sensations, just, you don't have to change them, just pay attention to whatever is happening inside your body. Pay attention to your waist, your arms, your hands, your buttocks, your legs, your knees, your feet. And notice those areas of your body that feel comfortable or perhaps with certain discomfort or neutral, and just pay attention to it all. Now, during the second minute, I'm going to ask you to take your attention to your navel, to your belly, to your diaphragm. And notice how your belly expands when you inhale, and when you exhale, it becomes contracted. And it is quite probable that your mind will get distracted, and that's okay. That's what the mind does. So if you find that you're thinking about your grocery list or what's on Netflix tonight or whatever, just very kindly bring your attention back to your belly. Feeling the air come in. Feeling the air go out. And for this third minute, we're going to open up the filter of our attention to include the whole body once again. So scan your head once again, your neck, your shoulders, and notice if things are different or the same as when we began the practice. With curiosity, notice what's going on with your arms and hand, the left hand, the right hand. How does your chest feel like? Your upper back, lower back, glutes, your hamstrings, your knees, your calves, your ankles, your feet, and your toes. So that's the end of the Hourglass meditation. Who would like to tell us, perhaps if you don't want to be on the recording, you can write it down on the chat. What did you notice with this little exercise? And if you hadn't meditated before, congratulations, this was your very first meditation. Because meditation is nothing but knowing that when you bring your attention inwards or outwards, because meditation can also be done placing attention outside of you. But the idea is that when you go into meditation, you already know that your mind is going to get distracted. That's fine. That's what the mind does. But the benefits I'll speak about from a neuroscience perspective of meditating come from you realizing that you got distracted and going back to your anchor. In this case, the anchor of your attention was, well, that description that I was giving you of your body parts. But an attention anchor can be your breathing, or it can be a mantra. It can be anything, a bodily sensation. Meditation can also be done while walking or dancing. It doesn't have to be standstill. The important thing is that you know that you need an anchor, that you will get distracted. And every time you get distracted, in a very loving way, you bring your attention back to your anchor over and over again, as many times as necessary. And I'll explain the benefits of that in a second. But so far, anybody who would like to tell us if you felt anything or something interesting? On the third minute, I yawned, meaning I was more relaxed. Very good. Congratulations. Yes, that is the whole point of meditation. When our body is constantly on the go, 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 we don't give time for our body to do what it naturally knows how to do, which is to release stress, to go back to a healthy baseline, to be able to do all of the healing and the repairing that the body knows how to do, because our parasympathetic nervous system is not engaged, the rest and digest wing of the nervous system. But if you go into meditation and you give your racing mind a little rest, you give the body a chance to reset to its original configuration, its original setup. So this is why meditation feels good. I was calmer and more focused on the present. Very good. And you see, it only took 3 minutes. So it doesn't take too much time for us to benefit from a practice. Of course, the more you meditate, what neuroscience has taught us is that I'm a Buddhist myself. So yeah, it's fantastic experience indeed. Thank you very much. What we have learned from scanning the brains of Buddhist meditators, precisely this is how neurosciences grew as of the year 2000. It was because the Dalai Lama was invited to a conference, but it was more like, oh, we want a picture with the Dalai Lama kind of thing. It was a psychiatric conference. And so they didn't expect that the Dalai Lama was going to offer them a challenge. And he said, let me see, I find that body awareness meditation techniques typically induce panic for me. Quite honestly, have to use breath work or mantra. Good. I'm going to explain why that happens in a second. So I was telling you that the Dalai Lama told the psychiatrist, I see that you know a lot about the healthy, the pathological brain. You have a lot of definitions and diagnosis and ways in which you name and label people when there are disorders, but what do you know about the healthy brain? And nobody could answer them. Because in the West, we have focused so much on the pathology that we never looked at what it means to be healthy. So the Dalai Lama gave them a challenge of study the brain of meditators and see what you find. And that's when there was a revolution of neurosciences, because of all the things that were learned from studying the brains of meditators. For instance, the concept of neuroplasticity is something that we didn't know before the year 2000. When I was young, because there are people on the call who are very young, but I remember the 70s, I remember the 80s. and during those times, they would tell you that if you smoke marijuana, all of your neurons would die and they would never regenerate and you'd be doomed forever. But we have found that there is neurogenesis all throughout our lifetimes. Neurons can be born again. Of course, there's a certain set of conditions that are required for neurons to be born again. curiosity, a curious mind is one of them. Meditation is another one. Exercising, there are many things. But the important thing is that we got it, that we didn't understand the brain correctly. And we also thought that once you developed a certain habit, it would be impossible for you to break away from it, or it would be impossible for you to heal from PTSD or any other mental disorder. But we have seen that there's neuroplasticity in the brain. The brain, when it gets fixated in a certain way, is because there are two things that can create a myelination of the neural pathways. Myelination means that a fat lining is recovering the nerves in such a way that they're united together. So going from A to B takes no time because they have been myelinated. They are fused together. So yes, sometimes it is difficult to change because of this process of myelination, but we found that it is not impossible. The brain can change the way in which the neural pathways are connected all throughout our lifetimes. And yes, there's a certain type of conditions that can help those changes to happen. Hypnosis is one of them, but there are many others. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we learned a lot about what it means to aspire to a healthy brain. Let me read this last comment. I breathe better when I focus on breath. When I'm anxious, I breathe much more shallowly. It feels as if my lungs are full when they are not. The thing about using your breath as an anchor, we psychologists, we do not like that because breathing is so closely connected to anxiety that if you ask people to pay attention to their breathing and they are in a state of anxiety, they're going to feel worse instead of better. So in those cases, it is not recommended to use an anchor from the middle part of the body, but rather to use an anchor of a distal nature, the hands, the feet, or something outside of the body that is not so threatening, because this is where you feel the unpleasant sensations of anxiety, for instance. Now, that is why some people, when they do body scan exercises, they like it a lot. Some people don't like it. It all depends on the history that we have of how we get activated into a hyperarousal state, which I'll explain in a second. And the strategies that we have used and perhaps didn't work for us, some did or not completely. That is why I said in the beginning that not everything works for everyone, which is fine. The important thing for you to look after your mental health in times of crisis, to provide emotional first aid, is to know what works for you and practice it so that you become strong in it. And so when you need it, it's there, it's available. You have worked to get it, to get the neural pathway to get from where you are to where you want to be in a quicker way. Of course, not everything can be done independently. There are many things that require supervision from a mental health expert. So that's the warning. In case you feel that the advice I'm giving here is not enough for you, you require help from a mental health professional. But the good thing is that there are many things that we can do independently to promote their mental health, and which are affordable, are easy, and are close enough for us to be able to take the benefit in from that. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation. If you have any questions at any time, just open your mic or write them on the chat. I won't be looking at the chat because I don't know how to keep the chat open on my presentation, but Kelly can help me perhaps if she's here, because I know she has to put, she has to tuck in the child, so that's fine. So let's speak about some of the neuroscientific, this is where you see the chat. Something popped up. I've learned so much already. This was not what I was expecting. Yes, we're just getting started. So let's start with the hand model of the brain. Now I don't know how to close the chat. It's right here. So I'm going to give you the kiddie version of this principle of neurosciences, but I think it works fine. I was telling you about how neurosciences started to bloom after the year 2000. So one of the researchers that I really like, and I recommend you read one of his books, Mindsight is one of them. There's another one that's called Brainstorm. It speaks about the brains of
Looks like Flor might have frozen there for a second. Yeah, I thought it was just me. Let's see if we can get Flor back here in a second. But I hope you all are enjoying everything so far. The reason why I had Flor come and talk to us today is because, well, Flor is amazing. And you know, it's very rare that we have that combination of a psychotherapist and an interpreter. So I think it's really, really important to have someone who is, you know, familiar with the experiences of interpreters and translators. And that's kind of like the whole idea of a peer support group. Oh no, it looks like Flor might have gotten kicked off. Let's see if she's going to come back. I'm going to try and message her real quick. Okay, coming. Oh, there she is. She's in the waiting room. I got her. Maybe this is a good time for me to do a meditation so I don't get nervous, right? Um, but yeah, I think it's so important to have someone who kind of who understands, right? Kind of what we go through as interpreters and translators. So I let Flor back in. Flor, are you there? I think you're muted and I see you. I can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm so sorry. There's been a blackout where I am, so I'm on my mobile right now because I have no electricity. So sorry about that. So no presentation either, but I'll try to explain as best as we can. I'm so sorry about this. And let us take advantage of the window for illumination purposes. So, well, I was telling you that the hand model of the brain, well, we don't need the slides. We can use our hands. So if you put your hand up like this and you put your thumb in and you cover it with your fingers like this, voila, this is the hand model of your brain. So I need two hands to explain this. This is your brainstem. This is your spinal column, sorry. This is the brainstem. This would be your limbic brain, where your thumb is. And where your fingers are, that would be your cortex, your frontal lobe. Okay, so the thing is the following. The brainstem, from an evolutionary perspective, it comes from the dinosaurs. We inherited that from reptiles. The limbic brain, which is where the thumb is, it's the mammalian brain. That's the part of the brain that we inherited from animals. And this is where the amygdala is, which is very important for our discussion. Oh, the light's back on. Let's see if I can reconnect using the computer. So I was telling you that the mammalian brain has a very important function, which is to activate the fight or flight response, which means when you are facing a challenge and your body's feeling threatened, you have a fraction of a second to decide whether you're going to go against this challenge, this threat, by picking up a fight, or if you see that the threat is too big for you to deal with that, then you're going to go into a flight mode, you're going to run away. And even though this is a mechanism that is primordial, it's quite ancient, the thing is that the modern brain has not updated the system in a way in which we can understand that, for instance, if you get into a discussion in Facebook, it's not that your life is being threatened. I mean, you don't need to fight or run away from that. However, the brain experiences threats as if our lives were in danger where they are not. So that is the problem with humanity right now, that from an evolutionary perspective, even though we have a cortex, and the cortex is the part of the brain where we have advanced thinking and cognitive skills and a way in which we can understand that perhaps we have been mistaken in the way in which we have understood a situation. When the fight or flight hijacks the brain, you are not thinking clearly. You have no idea of whether or not, because you have lost touch with the higher cognitive skills of your brain. That is a problem with having the fight or flight response, that you're not using the best part of your brain. So when that happens, And Daniel Siegel explains it this way. There's a flipping of the lid. That is to say, your cortex has been disconnected and you have no access to your higher cognitive skills. So this is what happens when we feel emotional pain. Somehow our system got offline. Somehow we are not able to use our brains with their highest capacities because we have been hindered by the hijacking of the brain. And when that happens, well, everything feels very threatening and you cannot regulate. The word here is self-regulation. Self-regulation means that you can reconnect your frontal lobe. When you're dysregulated, it means that you have had the flipping of the lid and you have no nervous system regulation. Let me see if I can go back with the other computer. Just 1 second. Sorry.
No worries, Flor. I actually, if it's okay, I'd just like to say something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just apparently there was someone messaging people in the chat, maybe not the most appropriate things. So just please let me know if you have any issues with anyone. We've never had any issues before. But if there are ever any issues, please feel free to message me, Kelly, in the chat. And in addition, if anyone has any issues with anyone else's behavior or anything along those lines, again, please just let me know in the chat. Don't feel obligated to handle it yourself. Okay.
Well, I'm so sad about that.
Yeah, no, you didn't do anything wrong, Flor. You're lovely.
I left the room.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they actually enjoyed what you were presenting on, but unfortunately, if we can't behave and be respectful with our colleagues, then this just isn't going to be the space for you. So,
well, it's okay. We can continue. Could you let me in?
Oh, let you in. You're on another device?
Yeah, I'm entering using my computer.
There you go.
Because it's very difficult to talk and explain things using your mobile.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've been in that situation before where I've been teaching classes and I have to do it on my cell phone because my power goes out. So you're not the only one that this has happened to. You should have been let in. Oh, look, we see you twice. That was great.
Let me get out of here. Okay, so geez, that's very stressing. Speaking about emotional first aid and the fight flight. I just gave you a real-time demonstration of fight and flight using myself as the model. So anyway, we're here. And so that's what happens. You flip your lid, you're dysregulated, fight flight has taken over, and obviously, when you are constantly in a fight or flight type of situation, your resources are completely drained out. It's exhausting to keep this fight or flight mode for the body. It depletes you of all of your resources. That is a problem of keeping the fight or flight all the time. And it comes a moment in which your body can no longer cope. Your body can no longer be in a fight or flight mode. And so you go into the freeze mode, the paralysis. That is to say, you go back into a more ancient part of the brain, the reptilian brain, and you are like the deer when it's about to be hit by a car. the freeze of the deer, that's the same type of freeze we get when our resources are completely surpassed. So we can say then that there are three modes of operating. I know I'm simplifying things, but it's just for the sake of the discussion. It's a bit more complicated for that. But we can say that the freeze reaction is when you're brought down, all the way down to the reptilian brain. When you're in fight or flight, you are brought down to the mammalian brain. But when you are with your cortex well aligned, then you're using your higher and best mental resources, and you can cope, you can adapt, you can fight your way back to faith, which is something that doesn't happen if you're in fight or flight. In fight or flight, you cannot see the way out. You cannot think positively. You cannot hope. You cannot have access to hope. And when you don't have access to hope, things become very complicated. So what do we do if that happens to us, right? How do we deal with the fight or flight, considering that, well, we have so many different demands on our attention, our time. So what do we do? I'm trying to get a document to you. I'm going to put it here on the chat. If I find it, it's right here. So since we're linguists, I love to teach this exercise to my classes of interpreters and translators because we love words. We love our words. We love our linguistic games. So this is what we do. There is a principle in neurosciences that is called name it to tame it. And what does that mean? If you would like to open that glossary that I sent you, you're going to do this exercise on your own. But when I've taught this class in another of the Kelly's groups, we usually do it in pairs, which is a beautiful experience because when you share with someone else, you feel so connected to the other person. But right now we don't have the time. We have other things to teach, and let us hope electricity will last for me until the very end. But the idea is for you. Just scan very quickly what's going on inside of your own body-mind system. Get in touch with your heart, get in touch with your gut, and try to see what is the emotion or emotions that feel more alive, more apparent for you. And try to find the exact word on the list that better conveys whatever you're feeling right now. I'll give you a minute for you to go through it. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Has anybody found what you're feeling? Anxious. Good. Okay, but now try to find, using the list that I gave you, something that is a little bit more nuanced because anxious is a bit general. See if you can find a word that is more specific to the type of anxiety you're feeling. Exhausted. Good. Right now, I'm in a spiritual retreat. I sense peace in my heart space. Ah! You're cheating. The point of this exercise is for us to realize that our emotional vocabulary is quite limited. We think we feel that there are only like 5 emotions: fear, joy, I don't know, anger, sadness, the ones that appear in the Disney movie, right? But it turns out that we're much more nuanced than that. Fatigue, self-conscious, very good. I see that you are finding words that are a bit more specific to whatever you may be feeling. And why do we do this exercise? Well, we do it because when you are able to find the exact words that conveys what you're feeling inside of you, because when you are feeling uncomfortable, you really don't know what's going on with you. You feel like you're not at peace, you're restless, you are fidgety, but you don't know exactly what's going on within you. But if you give yourself a minute to pause and look within and find the linguistic equivalence of what you're feeling, you activate the part of your brain that can help process it. That is the principle in neurobiology that is called the name it to tame it. So you can use it on your own. I actually have a meditation in the YouTube channel that's called Rain Meditation for the Buddhist practitioners here. You probably have done it a lot. People like Tara Brach have different versions of the Rain Meditation in what they have to offer. And they use this neurobiology principle, neurological principle of the name it to tame it. Tense and paralyzed, my fight refusing to flee. Okay. Tense and paralyzed, fatigue. Very good. Now, you have done the first step, which is to, the RAIN method is an acronym for RAIN. R is recognize. You have recognized, okay, you feel the paralysis, the felt consciousness, the fatigue, I felt those emotions. Recognize. The second step of RAIN is allow. Just say yes. Yes to my feeling tense and paralyzed. Yes to my fatigue. Yes to my self-consciousness. Yes to my feeling exhausted. Yes, yes, yes to whatever I'm already feeling anyway. And when you give yourself permission to feel what you're already feeling, how does that fit? How does that feel? For most people, if nobody's going to write on the chat, I'll spoil it for you. 3, 2, 1. For most people, when you give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling, people feel relieved. Why? Why would you feel relieved just by saying yes to whatever you're already feeling? Because we don't notice, but most of the time we are resisting what we're feeling. We fight against what we're feeling. We don't want to feel it, because if we felt that way, it would mean that there's something wrong with me. So we defend ourselves, and there's a lot of energy that is lost when we defend what we're already feeling anyway. For me, it feels a bit scary because I feel like it's almost like giving up, but it also seems liberating and like relief. So it's complex for me. You can have those emotions simultaneously. Maybe something that could help with that would be making a distinction that allowing does not mean that you're giving up. Allowing is like when you're playing cards, you are dealt with a bad set of cards, and you go, okay, this is the game I have right now. I can accept it. Like, can I accept, for instance, when it's raining, there's not much I can do. We don't go, oh my God, why do you rain on me? I don't like rain. Stop the rain right now. I hate it. No, we can accept, it's raining. Or we can accept, I have to brush my teeth. We don't go into a fight. Why do I have to brush my teeth? There are many things in life where we just allow. We know they're temporary. They'll come and go, and we don't fight against them. So that's the difference between giving up and allowing. Allowing only means that right now, this is the way it is. Later, I might do things differently. Things might change. Later, perhaps I'll have a different strategy. For the time being, this is what it is. It is like this right now. So I can allow it to be, knowing that it will change at some point, which is another Buddhist principle, isn't it? The atemporalidad, the knowing that things are just passing and nothing will last forever, neither the bad, so we can let it go, but also the good is not going to last either. So when you're feeling good, it's also another way in which you're encouraged to, okay, allow yourself permission to experience this as well, because many people also fight feeling good, because there's this idea that I'm only waiting for the other shoe to drop and many other things that comes through mind. So this small distinction could help you a little bit. I will seek shelter to get out of the rain. That's what we're doing here. We're seeking for shelter. We're allowing and seeking for shelter. Impermanence, that's a word I was looking for. Thank you. So that was recognize, allow. The next one is a very important principle. The I in RAIN is investigate. So turn your attention inwards and feel inside your body. Where do I feel this sense of anxiety, exhaustion? What else did you say? Self-consciousness. Do you feel it at the level of your chest? Do you feel it in your belly? Do you feel it perhaps in your neck? Is it a feeling of, I don't know, pressure in the head? Some people feel it in the hands and the legs. They become restless. Where exactly do you feel it? Just with curiosity, investigate where in your body do you feel whatever you're feeling. And imagine, for instance, that you had a marker and you could draw a perimeter around the areas in your body where you feel what you're feeling. It's a funny exercise, right? I'm feeling this in my belly. I'm going to draw a shape in my belly. And now, if you do it again, if you redraw, you'll see that it has shifted. So this is a way in which we can become acquainted with the idea that where attention goes, energy flows. So when you pay attention in a very conscious, curious way to your bodily sensations, where your feelings are being expressed, you're sending energy and you're helping be digested, and we can come in touch with the need that's behind the emotion. All of our emotions talk to us about our needs, which is the end game of why we explore emotions, because we're trying to figure out the needs that we have inside of us. Many times we're not aware of our needs because nobody taught us that that's a thing, that you should be aware of your needs. Looking at them from the perspective of your body and your emotions, which can provide a world of so much wealth into your inner working. So that is the recognize, allow, investigate. I is for investigate. Okay, thank you for the comments. So many comments, so exciting, but I cannot read them all quickly enough. Recognize, allow, investigate, and the N. The N is different for different authors. The version of N that I like is nourish. So what I would do is place a hand in the part of the body that you have acknowledged, where you feel the emotion. If it's the head, if it's the neck, if it's the chest, if it's the belly. And by the way, where you feel the emotion is already telling you something about what needs to be done. But we'll discuss that at another time when Kelly invites me again. Anyway, put your hand there and imagine that from your hand, there's a little warmth, there's a light, there's a color that is coming out, which is the perfect satisfier to whatever need you are having that is bringing this emotion about. And just give yourself a second to feel that you are providing your own satisfier internally. And that is the end of nourishing. I did it very quickly, but when you take the time to practice rain, that's why I gave you the meditation. And there's a version in Spanish as well, a version in English and a version in Spanish. Recognize, allow, investigate, nourish. This is the best way to process your emotions, even the most difficult ones. So it requires a little practice and a little patience and a little bit of faith that it is possible to feel better. You'll find that this resource is beautiful. I love this meditation. So similar to one taught by Buddhist teacher Lama Tsudrin called Feeding Your Demons. The Buddhist perspective on, for instance, tending to your anger is a very beautiful one. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches it that as if when you are feeling angry, imagine that your anger is a baby and hold your anger, which makes a lot of sense because anger is just an expression of a need that has not been met. So if instead of fighting your anger, I shouldn't feel angry, I'm a bad person because I'm angry, whatever, instead of you allow it, you embrace it, you try to find a satisfier for that need, you show compassion to your anger from the understanding that there's anger there because there's a reason. There are no bad emotions. All of the emotions have a reason for existing. The reason why anger exists is because it is a way in which the body's announcing us that our values are being violated or that somebody's disrespecting us. Like right now, when the situation happened here on the chat, people got angry and people acted upon that anger, which is good. That's the purpose of anger, to defend yourself. Jealousy is another of those emotions that has a very bad very bad reputation. But jealousy is a way in which your body is letting you know, okay, this thing you're envious of, this is something that you want. So either you work to get it or you accept that that's not something that's for you and you let it go. Jealousy is also another emotion that teaches us things. But perhaps another emotion which has a horrible reputation for us Westerners, and we take pills not to feel it, not to be depressed, is sadness. But sadness, when you let it run its course, and I heard a beautiful definition of grief not long ago, because, well, yeah, many people know the stages of grief, the Kubler-Ross presented, denial, acceptance, blah, blah. But the way this author described grief is like a river that is running through you. And the river is with different water temperatures, and it's bringing leaves and it's bringing rocks, and sometimes it's very low current and sometimes it's very high tide, but you just let it go through you. It's a beautiful thing to express what grief feels like. What sadness is trying to teach us is that, well, there is something that internally, and Buddhists also speak of this in a very interesting way. They say that the emotion that is closest to enlightenment is sadness, because sadness lets you know to make a difference between things that are truly valuable and things that are just worthless. That's the purpose of sadness, where we refuse to feel it. We refuse to let the RAIN go through it, and we have more faith on myths than inside our inner wisdom of what the body, the mind, the soul the things are trying to tell us. This makes so much sense. Yes, I remain grief as the waves of the sea. We remain present with it through all the tides. Yeah, I love it. Isn't it a beautiful metaphor? It's very close to what I think. I feel grief in my body. So let's go back to the presentation so that I don't get too far away from what I was trying to tell you. So you can do this exercise, the RAIN exercise, on your own. But if you want to help somebody, because we make so many mistakes when people, our friends, our loved ones are in trouble, the first mistake that we make is that we want to fix them. We want to give them solutions. We want a very quick way in which, this is what you do and you'll feel better, and shake all this nonsense. The problem with that, if you remember the hand model of the brain, is that when a person is seeking comfort from another person, it means that they have their lids have been flipped. They are in fight or flight, or perhaps they are in paralysis. So when that happens, there are no higher cognitive resources to find solutions. There's simply no way, but that's not what they're looking for. What they're looking for in you is a way in which they can come back online. They can become regulated on their own. So just as we did the Name It to Tame It on our own, we can practice to do this with others. Instead of trying to fixing things, giving advice, judging people, oh, why on earth did you do that? Which is only going to make the person feel what? Misunderstood, judged, and the fight or flight is going to become worse. So they're going to regret having told you anything, because you cannot hold space for people to have their big emotions. But you don't need to fix people. You don't have to feel that pressure to fix anyone. The only thing you can do, which works wonders on the body, is to offer linguistic resonance. You take out your list of words, and in a tentative way, because you don't go and tell people, oh, you're angry, because you're going to make them more angry. No. You say it like this. It sounds as if you could be feeling anger. Or if I were you, I would be feeling sad. You only offer a tentative reflection, a mirroring of what they are experiencing. So it might work and they say, no. It might not work and they say, no, that's not what I'm feeling. But at least you're helping them get more clarity in whatever it is that they truly feel when you get it wrong. So it's okay to get it wrong. But if you get it right, the way in which people are going to feel understood by you just by a linguistic mirroring is something that will transform their whole body, their whole outlook on life, their whole relationships. If we stop judging, fixing, and hurrying to get answers and fix problems, if we took the time just to help others name it to tame it, people will feel so understood, which is something that we severely lack in our society nowadays. So this is the first exercise. It's a very linguistic one. Name it to tame it, RAIN. You can do it on your own. You can work with it with others. And Kelly, you have done this in the other groups with other people, right? Isn't it powerful? Don't people say that they feel very understood and when they do it in pairs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, with some of my former students doing the exercise, and they were like, in fact, we couldn't even get one group to stop talking because they were so excited about how they made each other feel, and they hadn't even previously like gotten to know each other, and so that was really nice.
So it's very easy to make people feel understood. You only have to use your linguistic skills and refrain from those habits that we have of rushing into giving advice or judging people or trying to fix things. If you can remember to hold space and just offer a linguistic mirroring on your own and for others, that is something that is really wonderful. Oh, with teenagers, it works wonderfully. Because teenagers particularly feel very misunderstood by everyone, by their friends, by their parents. So when parents can offer the mirroring, it's not that you're going to condone whatever they're doing. You're just letting them know that you understand how they feel the resistances, they completely fall down. And this can improve parent-children relationship a lot. But that was the first exercise I wanted to share. How are we doing in terms of time? Half an hour. Okay. Okay. Now, let's talk about EFT. What is EFT? This is another thing that the West has copied from the East.
Hey, Flor, if you don't
Yes.
mind me popping in real quick, I think you had said I had said that this meeting was going to be an hour and a half. Is that a problem? Okay. I just didn't want you to think that you had a full 2 hours and then
I know
miss
it's
out
not
on whatever
happening.
you'd like to cover.
We'll do this very quickly. So
Okay.
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And this is another thing that we copied from the East, we Westerners. It is based on the principles of acupuncture and acupressure, but it's used for emotions. And I really like to do tapping. It's also another name in which you can learn this technique, tapping, when I'm feeling really angry. For me, EFT is the best thing I can do when I'm like exploding with anger. It feels so good. So why don't we do it together to see how you feel it. If you want to turn off your cameras, that's fine, because people don't like to think that they're being watched while you tap. I mean, I don't mind. So the first thing that you do, the method of EFT is that you're going to tap in different parts of your body 6 or 7 times with not too much pressure, but enough that you feel it. And that what it does is that every time we have an emotion, we are liberating chemicals into the body, neurotransmitters, adrenaline, cortisol, and many other things. And when they have nowhere to go, they get stuck. And that is why sometimes it's so difficult to get out of an emotion, because there are so many chemical substances that cannot find their way out of the body or being processed or being used in a fruitful way. So what EFT does is that it helps those energies move inside the neurological system. And you'll see what it feels like in a second. So we start with the karate chop, which is something that you do like this. With your 4 fingers, you are going to tap on the side of your hand like this. And we are going to repeat the anchoring phrase 3 times, which goes something like this. Even though, let's use, for instance, the current state of the world. Even though the world has changed so much in the last few weeks, and you have to repeat what I say. Even though the world has changed so much during the last few weeks, and it's overwhelming, I choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself. That part is very important, loving and accepting myself. That's the first one. We do it second time. Even though many people are losing their jobs, there might be a financial crisis, there's certainly a social and political crisis, and it breaks my heart. But even though that's what it is right now, I choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself. Let's do it one last time. Even though, as an interpreter and a translator, I always have to be the strong one, and people don't ask me how I feel. And it can be difficult at times to keep the neutrality. It can feel lonely. But even though that's the way it's been so far, I choose to deeply and completely love and accept myself. So that was the setting of intention. The karate chop, we do it 3 times. Now we start with the tapping on the beginning of your eyebrow. All is difficult emotions. You tap to the side of your eye and you repeat all these difficult emotions. You tap under your eye, all these difficult emotions. Every time Now it's below your nose. Every time I open my social media, I see Trump, I see Elon Musk, and it's always bad news. And I get angry. Now we are going to tap here at the level of your sternum. I get angry. I get frustrated. I feel scared. Now we're going to tap under the arm over here. And I see how people are fighting. The world is so polarized. And people are so rude to one another. We go back to the eyebrow. People are so mean. Since when did we start celebrating when people lose their jobs? Since when is it okay to speak ill of minorities? Since when is it okay to defend billionaires above the working class? So it has been exhausting. And I have felt anxiety. And I have felt sadness or depression, maybe. And I have felt hopeless, or I have felt helpless. What else would you like to add to the soup we're preparing today? You can turn on your microphone, or you can write on the chat, or you can do it on your own.
Despair.
I have been feeling a lot of despair, frustration. No matter what I do, it doesn't seem to do anything. Now we'll go to the eye. This problem is much bigger than myself. And it's going to require so much organization. You keep on tapping. I'm trying to open the chat. I can't tap and open the chat. What did they say? I'm so sorry. I mean, you can tap on either side of the face. Most of us are too afraid to face our own feelings. We are afraid of facing our own feelings. So we choose to stay quiet, not to get into trouble. And it makes me so sad. So you might be feeling a little bit of relief of all of this pent-up energy is beginning to move, and it feels a bit of relief in the body. So when you're tapping, I'm going to explain this, but keep on tapping because we've started, we have to finish the tapping. When you're tapping, you have to pay attention to where your energy feels stronger. For instance, when I say something, or when you're tapping on your own, you can use a script, you can follow a guided tapping session, or you can do it on your own. Remember, first you do the karate chop, then you do the catharsis, you get it out of your system. And when you're talking, if you feel like a lump in your throat, or if you feel like your tears are welling up, or if you feel like your stomach gets upset, it means that that thing that you said has a lot of energy. You have to go deeper into that so that you can help get it all out, move it. So once you have done all of this and you feel like a little tension release, you go into sowing what you want to feel. And it goes a little bit something like this. And even though I'm only one person, there's not much a single person can do. I hope that we can all awaken, even though woke, it seems to be a slur nowadays. I hope we can awaken our compassion. I hope we can defend ourselves. And even though it seems very difficult, I hope we can be kinder, we can be braver. Going back to Buddhist sayings, even though the world seems to be tumbling down, may all beings experience moments of peace. Even though there's a lot of anger and fear going around, may all sentient beings be safe. Even though there's a lot of loneliness that it has accompanied all of the roller coaster, may all sentient beings feel loved. May all be taken care of. May all of the needs of humanity be met in a loving way. May we, interpreters and translators, form a loving community of people who support one another, root for one another, care for one another, as Kelly has taught us to do. Let us hope that there are more examples of compassion in action. May all interpreters and translators, wherever they are, may they be safe, especially those in war zones. May all interpreters and translators have a job in spite of AI and all that. May all interpreters and translators feel joy, feel happiness, and can get in touch, can get in touch with faith and with our common humanity and what makes us different from beasts, which is our ability to learn, come together, and be wise and compassionate in body, mind, and spirit. Take a deep breath. Let it go slowly. And now you have to drink water. I didn't announce this before, but water is necessary after you tap. Why? Because I told you that there are chemical substances that are being moved throughout the body when you tap. So water can help you release everything that is no longer needed. Okay? So did you like the tapping? There are some people who really like the tapping because it's very kinesthetic for people who like to move and dance. This is a way in which I don't have to sit down and just pay attention to my emotions. They like the movement of the tapping. So this is a second option. Do you like it? If you don't like it, that's okay. We're looking for whatever suits you. I loved it. Good, good, good. Oh, the foreign measurables. Thank you, Anna, for that.
I think has her hand raised, and I have my water. I got my water. I ran and I got it. Once again, we are bleeping the names of the participants and blurring their faces, hiding their faces to preserve everyone's privacy. However, one participant said that she loved the tapping exercise, that she was familiar with tapping, but that she's never done a guided tapping before and that it was nice. She comments that her anxiety increased before it got better. And she asks Flor if she's familiar with Ayurveda and whether the concept of drinking water is related at all to Ayurvedic principles.
Probably, but I'm not an expert there. Maybe that's an answer. My knowledge of Ayurvedic medicine is very small. But yeah, water, from an archetypical perspective, water has always symbolized in all cultures our emotions. Just as air has symbolized our thinking, water is our emotions. So when you can drink water with this intention of let the water purify me, You're setting an intention and you're orienting your psyche in that direction. And that is hypnotic. That does a lot of, it's very beneficial for the body. And we're going to do a hypnotic exercise right now. So you'll see what I'm trying to say with that. Any other comments or questions about, yes, they loved it. Good. So we have two different methods today. The name it to tame it, the tapping. And now let's go into a third one. I still have 10 minutes, right? Yeah. Let's go real quick to offer options. I like to offer people options. Anyway, Kelly, if you could send them this PowerPoint so that they have the tapping points so they don't forget. There's a more advanced technique that is called thought field therapy, which is used for trauma, and it uses the same principles of tapping. Here are the points that you follow for this exercise for removing trauma from the tissues. You don't have to say anything in thought field therapy. It's only the tapping. You don't have to say anything at all. And here are the instructions. I do have this in a meditation, but it's in Spanish. I promise I'll try to get an English version at some point. Well, here are the instructions if you want to give it a go. The idea is before you do the tapping, you look within, you calibrate how much you're feeling the discomfort of whatever it is that you're feeling. Start with something small. Don't start with your biggest trauma, because you have to get the hang of things before you try the big ones, right? So you give yourself a grade. In a scale from 0 to 10, how much do I feel this emotion in my body? 9 or whatever. All right. So you go the tapping, you repeat and you recalibrate what score you would give yourself, and you continue doing it until you feel that it won't be reduced anymore. That's when you stop. You leave it for another day and then you come back. You have no idea how powerful this little exercise is. So if I'm invited again, I can give it to you in a guided way, but not right now. I'm only going to point you guys towards this so that you can learn more about it. So now let's work on self-hypnosis. Hypnosis, it's excellent for changing the neuroplasticity of the brain because you're using your imagination. And when you're using your imagination, you are activating both of your brain hemispheres at the same time, which is something that our culture doesn't do all the time. Since we live in a culture that believes that the left side of the brain, the logical brain, is superior than the right side of the brain where emotions live, there's an attitude that we have socially against feeling emotions or feeling the body, or not contacting what people would call the symbolic, the archetypical, the onirical, where the unconscious mind lives, which is really the right brain. So with hypnosis, we activate both at the same time. And so the changes, how you know that hypnosis is working, once again, you have to pay attention to your body. For everything you do that has to do with personal growth, you always pay attention to your body. If you're feeling better, it's working. And if you're not feeling better, it's not working really well. Because many people go to therapy and they feel the same way. Well, maybe that's not an approach for you. No, maybe if I stick longer, I'll feel better. No, pay attention to your body. Your body always knows the way. So I'm going to ask you to imagine right now a symbol that could represent the most challenging thing you're currently facing. So some people might imagine it like a little spider or a monster or whatever, and try to locate where exactly in your body would you connect that emotion to. So it's a symbol of whatever you are facing as a challenge, and general location of where you feel that in your body. Now pay attention to this image and see what is the size of this image that you are bringing up with your imagination. Is it the size of your fist, smaller or bigger? Do you imagine this in black or white or in color? This object, is it an object or a person, or is it a memory or a bodily sensation? Do you feel that it has a temperature? Does it have any textures? Does it have movement? And just with curiosity, notice what you can see about this object. I now ask your inner wisdom to transform, give it to your inner wisdom and ask it to transform it for you consciously and unconsciously in all directions on time of space, so that you can have a better relationship with what you're doing, with whatever you are doing to face this challenge, to cope with the situation in a more loving, compassionate, and wise and grounded way, and see how it is transformed. Your own inner wisdom is transforming this image, perhaps by making it bigger or smaller, changing the colors, putting some stardust in it, or elongating it, making it stop if it's moving, or moving if it's a standstill image. And after the image has changed, go back and feel what's going on inside your body. And this new sensation is the signal that this situation is already in the hands of your own inner wisdom, and will be continued to be processed in the next few hours, days, and weeks for your maximum well-being and adaptation. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and share the experience with the rest of us. So that was a very, very small hypnotic exercise, but that's the principle of hypnosis. We use our imagination to diagnose whatever we're facing, and we also use our imagination to transform it. Why? Because when we use our imagination, the images our imagination produces, they condense a whole lot of things: our beliefs, our experiences, our wounds, our hopes, our desires, our needs. Everything is condensed in a symbol. So when you transform that symbol, you also transform everything that was condensed in that symbol. That's the power of hypnosis. And it doesn't have to be inside your awareness. Actually, hypnosis works best when you are not aware of what's going on. But how do you know it works? The feeling in your body. So when people are too rational and they want to find the why do I do this, a rational explanation, they get stuck in a loop that's never ending. And this is a good way in which we can pause our rumination, which is just when the mind goes on and on and on within the same idea, and work with the body and let the body a chance to adjust things. And if it works, it's because you feel it in your body. Let me stop sharing to see the comments. Ah, lovely, I loved it. I imagine a stress about AI not getting a job as a giant basilisk. Yes, like Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter. And with the exercise, I could transform it to a plushie which I could manage emotionally. Thank you, Flor. And what is your emotional sensation right now? It must be better, right? All right. And someone else wrote, I imagine the face-stealing centipede from Avatar, The Last Airbender. It transformed into a beautiful, peaceful woman wearing a smiling porcelain mask, not a scary mask. And what is your sensation right now? Indeed, much calmer. And says, thank you for that. So once again, when you feel like, I don't understand why I feel better, it's only an exercise of the imagination. Well, it's because of all the things I have explained so far. Okay, so how are we doing in terms of time? We have 8 minutes before I give you a chance to ask questions, because I haven't let you ask questions. Here are some recommendations of resources. I have meditations they're in English. I don't have a lot of meditations in English, but I'll try to record more. But there's one for feeling safe, one that I created for navigating unprecedented times, a version of rain. There's a meditation which I really love, which is called Discharging Heavy Energy. It was actually something that I learned from shamans in Peru. I love that exercise so much that I made a meditation. And a basic grounding meditation. Grounding in the sense that when you are feeling overwhelmed, when I explained why, for instance, body scans do not work for everyone, it has to do with the fact that we are not grounded. There are so many things I could explain about grounding, but suffice it to say that when you have lost touch with the air in which you're standing, you lose connection to the electromagnetic field of the earth, if you may, and so your mind runs wild. To help the mind go back to what we said, remember, getting online instead of the flipping of the lid, it's important for you to feel the weight of gravity, to be connected to the earth. And this can help in the cases of dissociation. It can help with overthinking. It's just an imagination exercise, yes, but that's the effect that is felt afterwards. So grounding meditation, highly recommended. Try it, and then we can discuss whether you like it or not. Because as I said, there are all sorts of flavors for all sorts of people, and you have to find whatever flavor works best for you. Okay, ready for your questions. Any questions about the name it to tame it, or about tapping, or about the hypnosis exercise?
Well, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I guess my question is all of these exercises,
Mhm.
let's say, I mean, I'm an interpreter, but we also have translators here as well.
Mhm.
So I guess I can only come from the perspective of an interpreter. Like,
Mhm.
when would be the best time for us to do these exercises? Before an assignment? Would we be able to do any of these maybe during an assignment or adapt them,
Mhm.
or after?
There are two types of practices. For instance, meditation can be done as a daily practice in which you strengthen your brain, because the more you meditate, your amygdala shrinks, your cortex grows stronger. That neural connections that go from the frontal lobes into the mammalian brain and the reptilian brain, they get strengthened, so you don't flip your lid so much. So that type of meditation and exercise, it strengthens your nervous system. Those practices have to be done daily. That's why Buddhists meditate daily. But there's another type of practice which is meant to rescue you. Once you have flipped your lid and you're feeling awful, well, you go into one of those rescue practices. Any of this can help you in a rescue type of situation. You can do it before an assignment, for instance, an imagination exercise, and it's going to prepare your psyche to be grounded and feel okay, whatever happens outside. For instance, when I am going to start interpreting, I always imagine I am surrounded by a bubble of golden energy that keeps what doesn't serve me outside of me and can help me stay grounded and online without the flipping of the lid. And ever since I did that exercise, I don't feel, the crippling anxiety that I used to feel when I was younger and I started as an interpreter. So that's something that you can do beforehand to prepare yourself. And there are exercises you can do afterwards to get rid of the day. I have a beautiful meditation. It's in Spanish, but it's called Washing Yourself from This Experience, in which I work with the metaphor of floating in the sea. And I just love that hypnotic exercise because I feel like I'm being cradled. Um, that's an exercise you can do after an assignment to get rid of, the day and get ready to move on and do the rest of whatever you have to do. So yes to everything. You can do it before, during, and after. The rain can be done in a second once you have practiced it enough. So for instance, if you are in an assignment and something horrible has happened, you remember RAIN and you do it really quickly and it kicks in right away. But you do need to have practiced it beforehand. But when you're in a situation, confronting a situation, the best way in which you can ground yourself and go back online is doing an imagination exercise. That's very quick type of intervention, if you may. Did I answer your question?
You did. And I think next up we have, and then I believe someone in the chat. A participant comments that they loved my question. Thanks. And first, they would like to ask Flor to share more about self-hypnosis, such as techniques. Although they're familiar with hypnosis, they're not familiar with independent self-hypnosis. And they also have a comment in relation to Kelly's comment, and said that in moments where they feel panic in their body and mind, that it's information for them. And that sometimes the solution might not so much be emotional first aid in that moment, but to remove themselves from situations that aren't healthy. They give the example of an interpreting encounter in which they're tasked with interpreting a terminal diagnosis. Versus if, let's say, the medical provider or other people are yelling at them. For instance, if the patient is not taking their medication, sometimes people will take this out on the interpreter. And they comment, well, you know what? Maybe I don't need to be in that situation if it's not helpful for me. Before Flor answers this question, I just wanted to say that if you are a medical interpreter, you should be familiar with the NCIHC Code of Ethics. That's the National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare's Code of Ethics. And in addition to their Code of Ethics, they also have their standards of practice, which are kind of like the how-to manual for those ethical principles. My personal favorite standard of practice is standard number 24. It says that the interpreter advocates for working conditions that support quality interpreting. And the example that they give is if an interpreter is on a lengthy assignment, they indicate when fatigue might compromise interpreting accuracy. I'll add to that though. If you are interpreting and someone is verbally abusing you, for instance, a medical provider is screaming at you. I've had this happen to me before. I had a medical provider tell me that I was stupid and all sorts of ugly things because the audio quality was terrible. I think this person brings up an excellent point. We shouldn't just grin and bear it. We should do our best to remove ourselves from that situation. And if the company you're working for doesn't support you in that, hey, they may have made you agree to these codes of ethics, in which case you can actually send them this code of ethics and this standard of practice to be like, hey, this says that if I can't do a good job based on the conditions that I'm given, that I'm supposed to let people know, and you know what, potentially remove yourself from that situation. So I have really tried not to add a whole lot to this video, but I feel like that's really important and needs to be said. But let's hear what Flor has to say about, and in sum, the question was, more information about self-hypnosis techniques, as well as just that comment, hey, you might be in a situation where you just don't need emotional first aid. You need to remove yourself from that situation.
First, about hypnosis. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Because even though you were with a hypnotherapist who guided your experience, if you didn't want to get hypnotized, you wouldn't have. You allowed it, you promoted it, it was your brain, it was your internal chemical substances. So that's why we say that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis to begin with. So, but many hypnotherapists do not teach this to their patients because, well, they wouldn't get any patients. But it's a very simple thing. For instance, if you would like to practice it, you can have a conversation with your unconscious mind. You can ask questions to your conscious mind and ask that it responds in bodily sensations or images or memories or smells or synchronicities. That's another beautiful way in which you can communicate with your unconscious mind. And this is something that we learned from the Buddhist Carl Jung when he came up with this idea of the collective unconscious mind. He was actually stealing it from Buddhism, in which there's a belief that we all belong to the same mind and that our minds are interconnected and that we affect one another within this mind hive that we are. So you can program the way in which you want to communicate with your unconscious mind. Something that is called dreams solving is that before you go to sleep, you ask your unconscious mind a question, you go to sleep, and when you wake up, the first thing that comes to mind or the memory of a dream, you write it down, and little by little you start getting the hang of how your unconscious mind is communicating with you. You can communicate by the use of symbols with your unconscious mind. You can communicate through art, which is beautiful. If you have an artistic vein in your body, it works wonderful. But if you only do it with stick figures, it also works very well. You ask your unconscious mind, okay, I'm going to draw the problem, and you let it rest. You come back and you see it with fresh eyes and see what's different. Because when you do art, it's coming directly from your unconscious mind. And then afterwards, you ask your unconscious mind, and how do I fix it? And you go back to, on top of that art that you created, you rework that, and that's the answer from your unconscious mind. That's self-hypnosis away as well. So there are many techniques, but this one that I gave you is very simple. It's just asking for a symbol of the problem and asking it to be transformed by your inner wisdom. and pay attention to the bodily sensations before and after. And this you can transfer to any other technique that you want. And then you said something about putting yourself away from a difficult situation. Well, that's first aid. That's emotional first aid. The first thing you have to make sure of is that you're safe. So your strategy is already a self-aid, emotional first aid strategy. And what's best, it all depends on the context and what works best for you. And so why don't you try the 3 things that I taught today and see if they work for context differently? As I told you, for instance, when I'm angry, I do EFT. I love it when I'm angry. But there are things that I like better in other circumstances. So you can to play and see what works for you. Did I answer your question?
A participant asks, I've always thought of asking my unconscious mind. I've understood it in a more woo-woo kind of way, like asking spirit guides or angels. How do you conceptualize of that? Is it the same thing?
It is the same thing. When I work with a secular therapy, because I do esoteric therapy and secular therapy, I always refer to the unconscious mind. But if you change your framework of reference and if you believe in angels and spirit guides, it's the same thing. You're orienting your psyche to that type of communication, and that's fine. But it has to agree with you. That is why in a clinical setting, I would never speak of angels or things like that. I keep it more neutral, but you're talking to your inner wisdom, which is connected to a wider wisdom. Let's leave it at that. There's such wealth there. But I mean, in the West, we also have beautiful contemplations by Christians, which are really worth exploring as well. All cultures have their own little treasure chest for us to open and see what we find there.
An audience member comments about how a lot of the things that they believe in are kind of woo-woo and hippie in reference to both themselves and Flor.
Well, actually, I got into therapy because I grew up with hippies and they were so ungrounded. The things they would believe, they drove me crazy. So I said, I want something that's more scientific. I want evidence-based things. And I did. And then I went back to hypnosis because I said, I miss it. That was my path.
Well, the most hippie thing that I do is make my own granola. To answer someone's question in the chat, no, this will not be the hippie interpreters and translators group. We welcome all people, regardless of their inclinations, their social groups and statuses. But Flor, I just wanted to thank you so much for your time, so much for your wisdom, especially, you know, being a psychotherapist and being able to provide us with, you know, a lot of these tools that I don't know about y'all, but I'm in the United States and getting mental health care is not very accessible here. So super appreciative of everything that you've provided us with this evening. Sorry, the chat. Y'all always make me crack up in the chat. My goodness gracious.